The first flavor we're going to make is a coconut water ice. You'll just take a couple and pass them around. I purposely put down the term water ice because, oh, I need one of those. Thanks. I put down water ice because when people call up here, I can tell where you're from. If you say Italian ice, you're from New York. If you say slush, you're from New England. If you say frozen lemonade, you're from one of the major amusement parks. And if you call it Italian water ice, you're from Philadelphia, because that's what they call it there. If you're from Bay 8th Street in Brooklyn, it's called Granita. And the interesting thing is the only difference between, I use the Jersey Turnpike as an example. Granita in Brooklyn, in a neighborhood where they only speak Italian, is a very coarse Italian ice. It's almost crunchy. And in a 6-gallon batch freezer, it's going to use 6 pounds of sugar, which is very low. The sugar controls the smoothness of the product. Nothing else controls the smoothness of the product like the sugar does. So for a very coarse Italian ice, a Granita or Granite, it's 6 pounds of sugar. We go into Manhattan and we sell Italian ice and New York-style Italian ice, and it goes up to 7 pounds of sugar. That makes a smoother product. You go down the Jersey Turnpike to Philadelphia, where they call it Italian water ice, and all of a sudden the product's even smoother still, and it's using 8 pounds of sugar. So 8 pounds of sugar, 14 quarts of water, and 2 quarts of lemon juice is going to be my secret formula for a lemon ice, and that's up at the website that you can pull these down from. But that's what controls it. Not so much the machine and not so much any other ingredients, but the sugar content. Now, over in Staten Island, there's Ralph's Italian Ice. That's Larry DiStefano. And he's built a very big business making cream ices. Cream ices, and we're going to make one of those today, is sugar. Good morning. Sugar, water, flavor, and the addition of some ice cream mix. And we'll talk about what mix is, but basically the stuff that's sold to McDonald's to make a milkshake. We add some of that. In a very simple form, you could just add some heavy cream to the Italian ice formula, and you would have a cream ice. Kind of, on paper, kind of like sherbet, but not really, because sherbets tend to be much sweeter and much more sticky. The cream ices are very refreshing. So there's a lot of different versions of the very same product, and the only thing you're changing is the sugar content. So we're going to start with the CB350, the Countertop. So let's try the coconut. I've got 11 ounces of sugar. And I'm going to get 2.5 quarts of water. So let me use one of these. Now, a very good question that always comes up is, do I have to filter the water? Being from New York, we know darn well that you can't make a bagel without, New York City water. Did I give out the wrong form? Oh, you got it there. You need New York City water to make a good bagel, and there's actually some, reasoning behind it because it's the rising of the dough. The Italian ice is a little bit different and sorbets in the approach, and that is, we're here in Brooksville, which, if you notice driving up here, is in the middle of nowhere, and we have no tourists. Nobody comes here to visit. It's just a very far away rural town. So if I set up an Italian ice business, I'm selling to the residents, the people who live here. They grew up, the water's terrible here. It's got so many minerals in it, it's just absolutely undrinkable. We have bottled water, we're, being a little snobby. But the residents who live here, the people who grew up here, they grew up on this water, so they don't know the water's bad. This is what they're used to. So you make the Italian ice with the water that they're used to. Now, if I go down to Miami, everybody in Miami is from New York, and on vacation, I need to filter the water to get those minerals out. So something as simple as a Culligan, you don't have to go to reverse osmosis, but just a Culligan system, something that's going to take the chlorine out, is going to do a whole lot better. So your location will determine whether or not you have to filter the water. So we've got the sugar, I've got the water. Let's put that in. Sugar dissolves very easily in cold water. You don't have to heat it up or anything like that. Okay. And I'm going to pour that in. Oh, I forgot to tell you that when you're pouring this in, before you go to pour the product in, it's going to sound silly, make sure the gate's closed. Because invariably, someday, you're going to be pouring the product in and it's going all over the floor and you're going to curse me out because the expletive deleted machine is leaking and it's because you left the gate open. Trust me, I do it all the time. I mean, if anything can go wrong on a live demo, I've done it and can continue to do it. So now we're going to add the cream of coconut. And there's lots of different brands. Let me just get this going. Now, this is the infinite overrun control, which we can talk about later, but I'm picking, it's running at different speeds for different products. So I'm going to set it for Italian ice and start. It's going to take me up to full speed. And the reason is, the only way you get air in a product is from dairy fat. Dairy fat cells expand, and that's where air comes into place. Water, if you put this formula into ice cube trays and froze it, would expand 17%. You know how a lake freezes, or if you don't put antifreeze in your engine block, it'll actually break iron. But water only expands 17%, and in overrun terms, that's 34% overrun. So when someone tells me they want, no overrun in their ice cream, it's not conceivable. It can't happen in nature because because water expands. I get this one open. Now there's all different brands of cream of coconut, and you can use whatever one you like. For me, it came down to what was available in the store. Yes. Sweetened. Spatula. And I don't think I got any for today. So it's just one of those things I'll be leaving out. Nope, that's too big. If Jeff was here, he'd love to tell you that I make lousy ice cream, but great machines. And he's somewhat right. But see, I like to experiment live, so when I'm doing these classes, I'm often trying out new things. Because that's half the fun of it. That's half the fun of having a machine. Yes? Yes, he does. And I'll show you a copy of it in a little bit. I'll have to go into my office and get it. And we're going to use some of his formulas today for other products. Oh, it's right there. I'll hold that up. This is why you have a lid. Now I'm just going to let that mix for a second, then I'm going to taste it. This is Jeff's book, his top 20 recipes, and they're great. He's got tricks in here, like we're going to make M&M candy ice cream today, and his is better than mine. I used to take the M&Ms and just dump them in the machine, and you would get pieces of M&M. His is better. He grinds them up in a Cuisinart, or in a blender, and then throws them in, so it's a powder. And so for every speck of dairy, there's a speck of M&M right next to it. Makes for a better product. So I do a combination of some in the machine and some out. Now let's see, I'll get a squeeze cup. Who's familiar with what that is? Has anybody seen that? The technical term for that is a pleated water cup. If you ask us, we call it a squeeze cup because you put the Italian ice in it and you squeeze it up from the bottom and you eat it like that. It's a lot of fun. But if you ask anybody you ask your paper supplier for squeeze cups, and you're outside of New Jersey or New York, they never heard of it. So the technical term is pleated water cup. Now again, that's all liquid. If I open this up, I'm going to get a bath. So let me turn it off. And the nice thing about Italian ice is going in, what you taste is what you get. Ice cream changes. I'm going to put more coconut in. Ice cream changes, but Italian ice is exactly whatever you put in is what you'll get out. Okay. Nice large opening, so it's easy to get everything in there. Oh, that's not what I want. Italian ice, start. And refrigeration on. I just start a timer. Okay, I'm just looking at this and seeing how it cuts off. I can pull this at any consistency I want, but I like this. I watch this. I turn that off and watch how fast that comes out. Marketing is so much fun because the other machines have bars. There's nothing blocking the way. I've got a guard, so if you're prone to walk in front of a bus, you can't put your hands into the machine. The other companies use bars, which slows the process down so much, and they take that negative and say, oh, but our ice cream comes out so nice and decorated with little ribbons. But imagine, back to that steak. You broil the steak in 10 minutes, but it takes you 3 minutes to get the steak out. That steak's going to be charred. So the same thing with a good gelato. If it takes me 3 minutes to get all the product out, it's going to be different. The first part is going to be different from the last part. And as I like to tell people constantly, consistency is the key to business. McDonald's, I think we'll all agree, is a lousy hamburger. One of these days they're going to watch this and they're coming after me. McDonald's is a lousy hamburger, but it's the same lousy hamburger in Tampa as it is in Manhattan, as it is in San Francisco, as it is in Bangladesh. Doesn't matter where you are. When you walk through the Golden Arches, you know what you're getting because they're consistent. And that's what we want. I was talking with one of the founders of Swenson's, an old franchise from the 70s and 80s that we dealt with. And I said, what killed your franchise was inconsistency. You were a West Coast franchise. You opened up on the East Coast, and you didn't police it. You said, oh, it's too far to fly someone to go check on it. So they're changing the formulas. They're buying from different suppliers. And then advocate comes by, a food advocate on the radio, Joan Hamburg, and says, oh, I was just out in San Francisco, and I went to the Swenson's there, and they just opened up on the Miracle Mile in Manhasset, which is Long Island. And you know what? It's just not the same. Death to Manhasset. It's just not the same. So come on up and try this. I'll bring you over some. I'll take the first taste to see that it doesn't kill anyone.
Come here, girl.